I'm diving into this creepy documentary that promises to give me chills. Can I handle the terrifying true story better than any horror movie? This documentary has been making rounds on social media, and I just had to see what all the fuss is about. It's not just the usual true crime buzz. People are saying this one gets under your skin in a way that fiction can't. The story has been circulating for years, a piece of dark local folklore that's now been given a polished, terrifying platform. I'm curious to know what makes it so haunting. What separates this tale from countless others? Is it the evidence, the lack thereof, or something else entirely? The comments section is a rabbit hole of theories, each more disturbing than the last. So lights are off, headphones are on. Let's see if the legend of Blackwood Creek lives up to its chilling reputation. The story begins in a small, isolated town that was shaken to its core by a mysterious event. Blackwood Creek. The name itself sounds like it was pulled from a Gothic novel. It's a case that has left seasoned investigators scratching their heads, and the community still searching for answers decades later. Before the incident, it was the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, doors were left unlocked, and the biggest news was the annual county fair. But the town was never the same after that fateful day, and the legend of what happened has only grown, twisting and turning with each retelling until the truth seems impossibly buried. It started subtly. First, it was just whispers. Then, the whispers became frantic phone calls. People started to vanish, without a trace, leaving behind only questions and a thick, palpable fear. The first was a teenager, then an elderly man who lived on the outskirts of town, then a young mother. There was no pattern, no connection, no ransom notes. The authorities were baffled, and as the disappearances continued, the town descended into a quiet, suffocating chaos. No one knew what was happening, or who would be next. The once peaceful town was now gripped with a primal terror, the kind that makes you eye your neighbors with suspicion and fear the sound of the wind at night. As the days turned into weeks, the town's residents became increasingly paranoid. A self-imposed curfew fell over Blackwood Creek. Businesses closed early. The streets were deserted after dusk. Everyone was on edge, and no one knew who to trust. Old grudges and forgotten slights resurfaced as people desperately sought a logical explanation, a human monster they could point to. But there was nothing. The mystery had taken on a life of its own, a malevolent presence that seemed to feed on the town's growing hysteria. It felt like the town was in the grip of something ancient and sinister. The central issue here is the unexplained disappearance of multiple residents, which has left a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives. It's a story that has been extensively covered by regional news, but the documentary digs deeper, unearthing details that were never made public. The more you dig, the more baffling it becomes. Dozens of theories have emerged over the years, ranging from a cunning serial killer to mass hysteria, even alien abduction, but none have provided a conclusive explanation that accounts for all the bizarre evidence, or the complete lack of it. The town's history dates back to the early 20th century, founded on logging and a stubborn sense of independence. It was known for its tranquility and picturesque landscapes. That all changed when the disappearances started. A young woman named Clara, just 17, was one of the first to vanish. She was last seen walking home from the town library. Her disappearance set off a chain reaction of events that would unravel the town's peaceful facade and change it forever. Her case file remains open, a thin folder filled mostly with dead ends, and the desperate hopes of her family. The background of this story involves a complex web of relationships and events that led up to the main incident. The documentary introduces a red herring early on, a dispute between two prominent families over land rights, which seemed like a plausible motive for a revenge plot. But that trail went cold. Then, the narrative shifts. There were persistent rumors of an ancient ritual site deep in the surrounding woods, a place the town's founders supposedly knew about and avoided. Some believed this site was connected to the disappearances. The town's residents were tight-knit, and everyone knew each other's business, or so they thought. It turns out Blackwood Creek had secrets buried deeper than any cemetery. One of the key figures in this story is a local journalist named Evelyn. She wasn't from Blackwood Creek, but she was assigned the story by a regional paper and quickly became obsessed with uncovering the truth. She saw the holes in the official investigation, the details that were being overlooked. She spent months, then years, investigating, talking to every witness she could find, and meticulously analyzing every piece of evidence. Her findings only added to the mystery, and she began to suspect that something far more sinister and organized was at play than a simple string of abductions. Evelyn's research led her to a reclusive resident, an old man who claimed to have seen something strange on the night of the first disappearance. He spoke of lights in the woods and whispers on the wind, things the police had dismissed as the ramblings of a senile man. But Evelyn listened. The resident's account was cryptic, but it sparked a new wave of interest in the case, pointing her toward the town's forgotten history. The journalist was determined to get to the bottom of the story, even if it meant putting herself in harm's way. Her notes from this period show a growing sense of urgency, a feeling that she was close to a breakthrough. This leads to one of the documentary's most intense sequences, Evelyn's night search. Following the old man's vague directions, she ventured into the Blackwood forest alone. The footage here is recreated based on her detailed journal entries. The sound design is incredible. Every snapped twig, every rustle of leaves feels like a threat. She described finding strange, almost geometric patterns carved into the trees, leading her deeper into the woods. She felt she was being watched, a constant oppressive feeling that made her question her sanity. She didn't find a person or a place, but she left the woods that night convinced the forest itself was hiding something. Shaken but undeterred, Evelyn changed tactics. If the woods held a physical secret, the town's history held a written one. She spent weeks in the municipal archives, poring over centuries-old property deeds, town meeting minutes and private journals. This is where she made her second major discovery. Buried in a 19th century ledger, she found repeated references to a pact made by the town's founders. It was described as a necessary sacrifice to ensure the town's prosperity, an agreement with the guardians of the wood. The entries were chillingly vague, but they always coincided with periods of unusual disappearances that had been written off as accidents, or people simply moving away. As more people disappeared in the present day, the town became a ghost town. The authorities, facing immense pressure and no leads, were powerless to stop it. The residents were trapped in a living nightmare. Evelyn's investigation had uncovered these disturbing historical parallels, but she was no closer to finding the truth of the current crisis. She now had an overarching theory. This wasn't a new phenomenon. It was a cycle, a debt coming due, but who was collecting? The most shocking twist came when a group of amateur investigators, inspired by Evelyn's published articles, followed her trail into the woods. Using her notes on the tree markings, they discovered a hidden cellar door concealed beneath a blanket of moss and roots. What they found there changed everything. The room was filled with strange artifacts and symbols, which seemed to point to a dark and sinister force at work. It wasn't ancient. The objects were from different eras, some quite recent. The room's discovery raised more questions than answers. It was a collection point, a museum of the lost. On a dusty table lay personal effects from many of the vanished, including a locket belonging to Clara, the first girl who disappeared. What was the purpose of the room, and what was behind the disappearances? Evelyn's theory, pieced together from her final notes, was that the town wasn't just the site of a curse, but that a select group of residents, a hidden society, were its willing participants. They were upholding the ancient pact, choosing the sacrifices to maintain the town's prosperity and their own power. The disappearances weren't random at all. The fate of those involved is still a mystery, and the town remains a place of dark legend. The official investigation into the cellar was inconclusive, the evidence deemed circumstantial, and Evelyn Reed's investigation ended abruptly. She vanished shortly after she supposedly identified the members of this secret society. Her apartment was found undisturbed, her final article unfinished on her typewriter. Some say she uncovered too much and was silenced, becoming the final sacrifice of that cycle. Others believe she was driven mad by the truth and simply ran away. Her car was found abandoned 100 miles away, wiped clean of prints. In the end, the truth remains elusive, and the legend of Blackwood Creek continues to haunt us. The documentary doesn't give us a neat conclusion. It presents the evidence, Evelyn's terrifying theory, and leaves the final judgment to us. The story is a chilling reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved, and that the darkest secrets are often hidden in plain sight, protected by silence and time. I'm left with more questions than answers, and I have to wonder, what really happened in that town? Is the cycle over, or is it just waiting to begin again? This one is going to stick with me for a while. The idea of a community turning on itself, of a secret kept for generations, it's deeply unsettling. If you have any thoughts on this creepy documentary, or your own theories about what happened in Blackwood Creek, please share them in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to see what you all think. If you're interested in more eerie stories like this, and deep dives into mysteries that blur the line between fact and folklore, be sure to check out my other videos. There are plenty more rabbit holes for us to fall down together.